In the movie National Treasure, a young boy named Ben finds a book in his grandpa's attic that tells a story about a hidden treasure. Many years later, Ben and his friends search for this treasure, facing danger and puzzles along the way. Keep watching to know if they find the treasure or someone else gets to it before them. The movie started in a dark attic in 1974. A young boy named Ben was exploring and found a book. His grandpa caught him and told him a story. In 1832, a man went to meet the president. Since the president wasn't there, the man gave a secret about a treasure to Ben's ancestor, Thomas Gates. This treasure had been lost for centuries but was found by the Knights Templar, who later became the Freemasons. By the time of the Civil War, the treasure was hidden again, and only a few clues remained. One of those clues was given to Thomas, saying, "The secret lies with Charlotte." Ben's father, Patrick, interrupted and dismissed the story. Many years later, Ben was traveling through the Arctic with two men, Ian and Riley. Their team was searching for a buried ship. Ben dug into the ground and uncovered part of the ship, which had the name Charlotte. They explored the ship and found bodies inside. The captain had been guarding a barrel. Ben opened the barrel and found a casket with an ornate pipe inside. This pipe held a riddle, and Ben tried to solve it. He figured out that an invisible map was hidden on the back of the Declaration of Independence. Ian thought he could arrange to borrow the Declaration, but Ben refused. Most of the team turned against him, calling him a problem. They even threatened to shoot Riley unless Ben revealed more about the riddle. Ben started a fire, but Ian locked them in. They escaped through a smuggler's hole before the ship exploded. Later, Ben and Riley tried to warn the FBI about Ian's plans, but they weren't believed. They went to the National Archives to meet Dr. Abigail Chase. Ben noticed her button collection and saw that one was missing. He asked if he could examine the Declaration to check for invisible writing on the back, but she refused. Feeling disappointed, they left. They went to see the Declaration behind a glass screen, and Ben decided he was going to steal it. Riley told him it was impossible, explaining all the security measures in place. Ben then revealed that during a gala that weekend, the Declaration would be moved to the preservation room, where it would be easier to steal. They began planning the robbery. Ben sent Abigail the missing button from her collection, which he had covered with invisible ink. Riley went to the archive and turned on a heat sensor. Abigail received a call and went to the preservation room to check things out. She entered a password on the keyboard, but she accidentally left a coating of invisible ink. Riley was watching the cameras and saw that the document was being taken out for inspection. Meanwhile, Ian was getting explosives ready with a man named Shaw. Ben arrived at the gala, and his earlier preparations gave him easy access. While Ian arrived to start his raid, Ben met Abigail at the party, where she thanked him for a gift. Ben secretly switched their champagne glasses to get her fingerprints. Both Ian's crew and Ben headed toward the preservation room at the same time. Riley shut off the security cameras, and Ben cracked the access code. When Ben got inside, he began removing the document. Suddenly, Riley lost the camera feed as Ian's crew took over. Ben decided to take the document inside its case, but just as he reached the elevator, Ian and his men arrived and began shooting at him. Ben managed to get inside the elevator and remove the document from the case. A security guard noticed something was wrong and triggered the alarm. Ben tried to leave, but Abigail followed him outside. She asked what was happening, and the alarm started blaring. She quickly realized that Ben had taken the Declaration of Independence and snatched it from him. Ben got into the van with Riley and they drove away. From a distance, Ian saw Abigail holding the document, so he and his men kidnapped her. Ben and Riley chased after them and rescued Abigail, but Ian still had the document. However, Ian later discovered it was just a replica that Ben had taken from the gift shop. Ben revealed that he had the real document and planned to run some tests on it later. He knew the FBI would soon discover his identity, but explained that he needed the silenced Dogood letters. To get them, he would have to go to his father's house to see the originals. Back at the gala, Detective Sadusky took control of the situation. The investigation led them to Ben's apartment, where they found copies of the letters. Meanwhile, Ian also figured out the code. Ben went to see his father and asked about the letters, but Patrick was angry and told him to leave. Ben mentioned he found the Charlotte, but Patrick thought the treasure was just a myth, and said Ben would search for clues forever. Despite this, they looked at the Declaration and found hidden numbers that connected to the silenced Dogood letters. Patrick then said he had donated those letters to the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia. Later, the FBI arrived at the house and discovered that Patrick was tied up, but he refused to give them any information. Ben traveled to Philadelphia, where Riley got a kid to help decode the message. As the kid got the last few words, Ian saw him and followed him outside, but Riley had already left. Riley met Ben and Abigail with the decoded message. They checked the time on a clock shown on the back of a $100 bill, which read 2:22. Ian bribed the kid to get the information he had shared with Riley, and then went to see the Liberty Bell. Meanwhile, Ben, Abigail, and Riley were already in the clock tower, and at 2:22, they watched where the tower's shadow fell. They went to that spot, and Ben found a symbol carved into a brick. He cut out the brick and discovered a strange ocular device. Ian was close behind, but Ben stayed ahead of him. They unrolled the Declaration of Independence, and with the spectacles, Ben saw a new clue. They noticed Ian's crew coming and decided to split up to carry the clues. Ian and Shaw spotted them and began to chase after them. During the chase, Abigail dropped the Declaration, and Ian picked it up. When Ben went to join the others, the FBI suddenly caught him and took him into custody. Abigail and Riley saw what happened and ran away. Meanwhile, Ben was being questioned. He was told he had two choices. Number 1 was to go to prison, and number 2 was to help the FBI retrieve the Declaration and then go to prison for a long time, but feel better inside. As he sat there, he realized that the previous clue had to be more important than he thought. Suddenly, Ben got a call from Ian, and the FBI listened in. Ian asked him to meet on the flight deck of the USS Intrepid in New York and to bring the glasses. He warned the FBI, knowing they were listening, that he would shred the Declaration if they did not let him come alone. The next morning, Ben was on the USS Intrepid. A helicopter flew in, and a device caused interference with Ben's communicator. During the disruption, he received instructions, but the FBI could not hear them. Ben walked toward the observation deck at the back of the ship. He assured Sadusky that he was not against him, but he had found a third option. Then, Ben jumped overboard just as Sadusky called for the divers. Underwater, Ian's crew rescued him. Soon after, he learned that Abigail was now in charge, and he was put on the phone with her. She told him that she had made a deal with Ian. They were near the spot that they thought the previous clue pointed to, and that was where they were bringing Ben. When he arrived, Ian greeted him and handed Ben the various clue objects. Ian then asked where the treasure was located. Ben shared what he knew but tried to leave. However, Ian believed that Ben knew more than he was telling and revealed that he had Ben's father held hostage. Ben insisted that they needed to go inside Trinity Church. He begged Ian to release his father, but Ian then revealed that he also had Riley and Abigail as prisoners. Ben took another look at the map and pointed out that it mentioned beneath Parkington Lane. Everyone went to the crypt under the church, where Riley found a stone that said Parkington Lane. They broke through the stone, uncovering a tunnel. They all started to climb through until they reached more chambers. Suddenly, Ben kissed Abigail. As they moved on, one of Ian's gang members fell through some rotten floorboards and died, starting a chain reaction of destruction from years of decay. Abigail and Ben stepped onto an old elevator system and fell deeper. They almost dropped the Declaration but managed to save it and themselves. Everyone gathered again and used the elevator to get to the bottom, where they continued through more tunnels. They came to a final chamber that seemed to be a dead end. Ben complained that the treasure had been moved and that there were no more clues. Ian didn't believe him and decided to leave them there unless Ben told him the next clue. Then, Patrick suddenly said he knew the next step. He explained that the hanging lantern meant the next clue was under another hanging lantern in Boston. Even though Ian left them, Patrick revealed that it was actually a fake clue. They walked back into the chamber and found a pictograph of an eye. Ben pressed a button, which revealed the entrance to the treasure room. However, the treasure room was empty. Ben felt disappointed and told his father that he was right. Patrick disagreed, saying that Ben had followed the clues, and if the treasure room existed, then so did the treasure. He felt happy to be proved wrong. They all decided to keep looking for the treasure. Ben believed there should be another way out. A pipe operated a keystone, leading them into another chamber where they finally found the treasures and another exit. Ben called Sadusky and returned the Declaration. He asked that his team and family receive credit for discovering the treasure and that it be shared among many museums. In Boston, the FBI caught Ian and his gang. With a cash reward, Ben bought a large estate and Riley purchased a sports car. As the movie ended, Abigail gave Ben another treasure map.